It is currently the largest and most controversial construction project in the world. Saudi Arabia is planning a megacity that will dwarf all other cities in the world. The new city of Neom is to be built in the middle of the desert on an area 33 times the size of New York City. This $500 billion city is to break all superlatives and become a vision of what a new future could look like. The Saudi crown prince is not practicing modesty and speaks of the most livable city on the entire planet. The city is to be powered 100% by renewable energy, there are to be no cars, and it is to becoming the technology center of humanity. There's also talk of a huge floating industrial complex in the shape of an octagon, as well as luxury resort complex off the city coast. Also the first outdoor ski resort on the Arabian Peninsula. And the centerpiece is to be the line, a linear city 170 kilometers long and 200 meters wide. But what exactly is this mega project all about? How likely is it to actually be completed, and why is it the subject of so much criticism? We take a look at all these questions in today's video. Enjoy! The construction of Neom began back in 2015, 2 years before it was even officially announced. The Neom International Airport was built, which should make it logistically possible to carry out such a project in the desert at all. In 2017, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman then officially announced the construction of the city. It is supposed to be part of the Saudi Vision 2030, which is primarily about freeing Saudi Arabia from its dependence on oil. They want to broadening its economy and establish a strong service sector. This is similar to what Dubai and Qatar have already achieved. And Saudi Arabia also wants to grow. By 2040, 100 million people are to live in the kingdom. Currently, however, there are only 35 million. Therefore, 70 million foreigners are to be attracted by then. And with various mega projects, these are supposed to be mainly wealthy people from all parts of the world who will pump even more money into the state. And so, the idea of the city of Neom was born. The city should consist of 4 cities on the whole. Once, the offshore luxury island Sindola, which should become a retreat for the super rich, with a huge marina and luxury resorts. Then Octagon, a 7-kilometer city that floats on water, where the latest technologies are to be tested and which is to be completely sustainable. Then the city of Trojana in the mountains, which will provide a retreat from the hustle and bustle of the metropolis. It is to become possible to ski there all year round, and it is there that the 2029 Asian Winter Games are to be held. And then there is the heart of the city, the line. A line only 200 meters wide, but 170 kilometers long. It runs through the middle of the desert, and it is to provide space for 9 million people. There are to be no cars, as a high-speed railroad is to cross the entire city within 20 minutes. But what is the current construction plan for the project? Construction work is progressing, and the first districts are to be ready as early as 2024. So the first residents should be able to move into Octagon next year, and the first into Trojana in 2026. The same applies to Sindola. And the first modules of the line are also scheduled for completion in 2026. So the plan is that by 2030, about 1 million people will be able to live in Neom. But for all euphoria, how likely is this timetable in fact, and why is the city the subject of so much criticism? Various risk assessment experts are unsure whether the city as planned will ever be a reality. Quote, the feasibility of Neom as a whole is still unclear given the unprecedented scale and cost of the project. As a result, in addition to huge government subsidies, there are speculations that the project will go public. And even now, the schedule is lagging badly behind. Indeed, Saudi Arabia originally aimed to complete large parts of the project as early as 2020. But by July 2022, only 2 buildings had effectively been erected in the middle of the desert. The plans for the line are also being constantly adjusted, as construction in the middle of the desert is naturally not very easy. So the first occupation by 2026 seems too ambitious. But there's also a great deal of criticism of the project in other respects. Starting with the client himself, the Saudi crown prince, who is repeatedly accused of having blood on his hands. In addition to the Khashoggi case and the handling of the opposition, there's also the issue of the working conditions for the construction of the city itself. Tens of thousands of Bedouins are said to have already been forcibly relocated for the construction of the project, and anyone who resisted is said to have been threatened with the death penalty. And also the conditions of the guest workers who work on the building sites of Neom are described as discriminating and inhuman. Thus, many are already drawing parallels to the situation of guest workers for the World Cup in Qatar. And the city also came under particular criticism when it was chosen as the venue for the Asian Winter Games. The environmental impact of hosting the Winter Games in a desert state should be obvious. This means the city could end up being an environmental and human rights disaster after all. But what do you think about the project? Feel free to write in the comments. If you're more interested in crazy construction projects, I also recommend my video about the new capital city of Egypt. Just click here and see you there.